The Thomas Frank era at Tottenham got underway on Saturday afternoon with a 2-0 win against Reading in pre-season. We have finally seen what Frank Ball looks like in the flesh, and there was so many encouraging things to take away from the game. There is a lot to get into, a lot to break down, and a lot to learn still from just 90 minutes of football in a new manager under a new system with new players, and it is so exciting to be able to finally bring you guys these kinds of videos, breaking everything down, talking about what we learned and what we can expect going forward, what we may still need to improve. So let's get right into it. Before we do go any further, I just want to say a massive thank you for your support again on the channel over the last few weeks and months. If you are not subscribed to the channel, feel free to head down there and hit the subscribe button as we head for 5k by the end of a 2025-26 campaign. Over 70% of you watching this video are not subscribed to the channel, so head down there, hit the button, it helps me out massively, and thank you. So, Thomas Frank, Tottenham, Reading, what did we learn? There is a lot to get into and a lot of changes to what we saw week in, week out under Ange Postecoglou. So I want to start from the back and move forwards. We can go with the basics first. We can talk about the formation and how we build up, and then we can get into the individual players, their roles, and maybe the smaller changes that we've seen under Thomas Frank so far. Now, after watching the game, I've seen a lot of people compare Thomas Frank's build-up in possession to how Roberto De Zerbi plays with both Brighton and now Marseille. And that is in a 4-2-4 build-up possession with two number 6s next to each other, 10s in between the lines, and then high and wide fullbacks with inside forwards. And that is completely accurate to how we set up against Reading. Of course, we were going to be the more dominant on the front foot type of team in this match. It's only natural with the level of players that we've got. And I think considering it was our first game using that build-up, that formation and those tactics, things went relatively well. What we didn't see very often under Ange Postecoglou was players working together as a unit defensively, and that was very evident from the first minute in this first game under Frank. Players working in close proximity to each other, filling the gaps, being solid defensively, and then also being available for their teammates when we do have the ball. Now, we know Antonin Kinski played in goal for the first half, and he was crucial to how Tottenham built up. And it raises a lot of questions over whether he may be preferred to Vicario in the start of the Premier League season, particularly considering I don't think Vicario looked relatively comfortable when he played in the second half. So we saw that Kinski brought the ball forward quite often outside of his box with it at his feet, and he played the short passes into Romero or into Kevin Danso. And then what you could see immediately from then is the options that Romero had available to him. Whereas maybe last season, Romero would have to hold onto the ball for quite a long time and pick a line-breaking pass, which he still did, by the way. I'm not taking that away from him. It's one of his best traits. This time, we saw that immediately when he gets the ball, he has at least two options available to him in very close proximity. And the idea is to still find those spaces, still find those gaps, but be more aggressive with the build-up play in terms of getting things done quicker and moving the ball up a lot faster as well. So when Romero puts the ball into the middle of the park or finds his pass, it would then rely on one of the number 6s, which is what we played, by the way, we played 2 in that pivot, to turn and either fire it out to the wing to a right back or left back, or find one of the strikers towards the top of the pitch. And that leads me on to how the fullbacks played, especially sort of the different roles that they played on either side of the pitch. We'll start on this right-hand side. Pedro Porro, when we had the ball, joined in as a 3 in the build-up. So you could say that he come in alongside the likes of Romero and Danso during the times that we had possession, and he used his technique, his ability to aid that build-up, whether it be a long pass, whether it be a ball down the line, anything. We know how good Pedro Porro's passing is. He was the man to take on that responsibility. But on the other side of the pitch, Destiny Udogie played a completely different role. He was high and wide and hugged the touchline, something that suits his game superbly well. We know how much of an athlete Destiny Udogie is, and we know that he thrives in those areas out on the wide where he can do a lot of running, he can go past his man, he can get the ball in the box. We saw that on so many different occasions, and it allowed, I think it was Mikey Moore who sort of played out on the left towards the start of the first half. It allowed him to come inside and fill the pockets and the spaces with like Alfie Devine as well. It's all under Roberto De Zerbi. You could almost describe it as like a 3-2-5 formation to how he plays, and that was like a carbon copy from Frank in that first half. You had the three at the back, short, sharp passing, draw the defenders in, invite the press, and then play through them. It is still a risky tactic, especially considering what we saw a lot of times under Ange in terms of making defensive mistakes and losing the ball. But when it works, it's incredibly effective. And against an opposition like Reading, no disrespect to Reading, it did work on several occasions. And it was great to see in what was an uneventful first half in the end. What we saw in the final third was very interesting as well, and that's a number of bodies that we managed to get in the box, just day up, just play after play after play. You'll see in a lot of the images that are included in this video that you've got the likes of Porro and Danso sitting almost on the edge of the box, and even Christian Romero is sitting towards the centre spot, and then you've got someone like Rodrigo Bentancur, or whether it be Yves Bissouma or Pat Matassar. They are the guys that try and get that pass into the box, and then we flood it. We flood it with bodies. We've got Brennan Johnson out wide on one end, Destiny Udogie out wide on another end, and then there's at least 4 bodies in the middle of the park as well. Solanke, Alfie Devine, Mikey Moore, all available in the box for whether a cross comes in or whether they need to pull out and get in for the shot on the edge or something like that, wherever the space is. It keeps the opponent pinned back because of how many bodies we commit forward, and it means we're less likely to lose the ball and then be caught on the counter-attack. I think this system so far, from what I've had a look at, is really going to suit the likes of Romero. It's really going to suit the likes of Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie. They were the 3 that almost stood out the most in the first half. I know we made an entire team's worth of changes for the second half, but from that first half I took away those 3 as the standout performers. It's very clear that we are still lacking that player to come in for Alfie Devine, where they can work in that midfield number 10 role. I know Maddison will potentially play there when he's back from injury. Kulusevski could, Tell could, Odeberg could, but I just think that Morgan Gibbs-White would be the perfect fit for that position. Devine obviously is not at the level we're used to seeing in top Premier League games. He's still a little bit below that, so it's a little bit less effective, but he was still able to get on the ball and have an impact and find the spaces, which I just think is really encouraging. And we know, as I've already mentioned, Pedro Porro's creative ability is incredibly good, so he is going to have a field day in the Premier League in this new position. What I also love to see is pressing from the very, very front. On the goal kicks that Reading had, Tottenham were ready on the edge of the box, ready to sprint at the ball, press as a team, and that is something that Thomas Frank has done consistently throughout his career, and it's not going to change with Spurs. I know there's a lot of narrative about how defensive we could potentially play under Thomas Frank. However, I do think that he is very good at finding balance, and he knows when to be compact and have players behind the ball, but also when to press and try and win it back. And we saw the best of both worlds against Reading as well. Another thing that we've talked about quite a lot is his ability to adapt and play to whichever team he is facing. And I think Reading set up mostly in sort of like a 4-3-3 formation. So Spurs ended up kind of going man to man and making sure that we were not allowing a single player too much time on the ball and covering the spaces, so that it forced mistakes and gave possession back to us on so many different occasions. There's not too much to add in terms of what happened in the first half of the game, and there are a few players that I want to highlight in the second half. Not too much changed in terms of tactics, because I think Thomas Frank is going to take it on a game-by-game basis and try and implement the core ideas that I have already mentioned in this. But there are a few I want to mention that obviously played in the second half. The first one being Mohamed Kudus. I think he is a phenomenon, and we saw what he is going to bring to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in excess against Reading. He was exciting, dynamic, hard-working, on and off the ball, and he had quality in the final third. I saw a particular passage of play on the right-hand side of the pitch where he had about 4 players around him. He managed to get on the ball, turn, go past, played a lovely 1-2 to Spence, knocked it up the line, beat everybody for pace, and then picked out a lovely ball to Jamie Donnelly. Ultimately couldn't finish it, but it was just a glimpse of what he could do. He also was involved in both of our goals, putting in the crosses to Vuskovic, Vuskovic's header onto Lancashire for the first goal, which, by the way, excellent to see Will Lancashire scoring in pre-season again. I'm really looking forward to see in whether Frank keeps him around the first team squad this season, or whether he sends him back out on loan. The same with Mikey Moore, I think. I'm not sure whether, again, he's still ready to play and start in Premier League games, particularly with the signings we're making. So will he go out on loan? Dortmund are reportedly interested, so that's one to keep an eye on. But Kudus was fantastic, and it's so obvious now that we've watched him in a Spurs kit that we've been missing that type of winger for so long. Someone that will take his man on, is a almost world-class dribbler, and he was full of energy, and it was just so impressive. He obviously got his assist for the second goal as well, picking out Vuskovic, which leads me to talk about the next player, which is Vuskovic. I genuinely cannot believe what I watched in that game and how good he was. He was so impressive. 18, I cannot believe that kid is 18 years old, and all I've seen is 45 minutes of him, and he has already convinced me that he can start in Premier League games this season. That's how much of a talent he is. If you speak to Croatian fans, they will tell you that they're expecting him to be like their best player in a few years and better than the centre-backs they've had. That includes the likes of Gvardiol, of course. And yeah, his goal was immense on his weak foot. What a finish. We know that he's going to contribute at the top end of the pitch, and he looks a strong force at the back as well, which is also encouraging. We're going to be so dangerous from set pieces under Thomas Frank, which we saw, of course, particularly with corners. Things looked a lot more encouraging in terms of how we attacked them and how many chances we forged out from them as well. And the final thing I sort of want to talk about, really, because we've talked about the tactics, we've talked about how we build up and play and how things kind of went. We saw the goals, two relatively routine goals, a header and a nice finish on the edge of the box. And that was kind of it. It wasn't the most eventful pre-season game in the world, but another change that we saw in the second half was Heung-min Son come on. And I'm going to refrain from being too critical of him, just because it's obviously pre-season, it doesn't mean too much, and he is on the older side of his career now, so it may take him a few games to get up and running for the new season, but he just looked miles off it compared to the likes of Kudus and compared to some other players as well. And I'm really, really interested, because Thomas Frank said in his press conference he hasn't decided who is going to be captain out of him and Romero yet. You know, he said that Son's happy at the club, but there are a lot of rumours about him potentially leaving after the tour in South Korea this summer. And it was just sort of like we saw the Son pick up from the end of last season, which was not very effective and almost not very interested in terms of the game. And we know that he has the quality, and I think he has to show it pretty quickly if he is going to have a chance at starting for us next season. I just think there was a lot left to be desired from him, and it was quite an eye-opening performance in my opinion, without being too critical of him, because obviously he's a club legend and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that he needs to improve by the start of the new campaign if he really wants to be that focal point for Tottenham as well. I do think that we need to bring in another striker as well. So Richarlison left out, there's rumours he's going to leave, and Solanke, while good, again, needs to be more prolific in the final third, in my opinion, and maybe he needs someone to really challenge him in that position as well. So overall, in 90 minutes of football, there was actually a lot to take away from that game. I think it was all mostly positive. The new players bedded in, the new pastures of play, the new tactics, all looked like they've been drilled in quite well in the limited amount of time Thomas Frank has had to work with the team. It's Luton next up next week before we jet off to Asia, so I will be doing another one of these videos as and when I can, as well as some live streams hopefully when I'm available. So if you have enjoyed this video, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button as well if you enjoyed. I hope I provided you with a bit of insight to how the game sort of operated from a tactical and an analytical standpoint. But yeah, let me know what else you want to see in the comments as well. What did you make of the game? Who were the standout players for you? And yeah, Tottenham are finally back. I cannot wait to watch more games, see how we improve under Thomas Frank and how we hit the ground running, hopefully, as we build up to that Super Cup against PSG. But thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see you guys soon in the next one. And as always, come on you Spurs.